a lot of times you want to give up, man. It's a tough business. It really is. And you're at your end, you're at the end of it and you're like, man, what am I doing? Is this what I want to do? But really it's what I want to do.
This is the Real Food, Real People podcast.
This week we take you inside a small local butcher shop. Last week we talked with a small beef farmer about the demand for local beef and how she'd like to do even more than what she does. And she explained that one of the difficulties is finding a place to butcher the meat. Well, we go inside this butcher shop and talk with Boston Alvord. It's a family-run butcher shop, Alvord's Custom Meats in Sunnyside, Washington. And he shows us how it all works and how people are trying to get local meat through shops like his, but how there are just limits to what's possible based on what's available right now in Washington State, and how some of the rules in place keep it that way and make it difficult to get more local meat in our system currently. Again, his name is Boston Alvord in Sunnyside, Washington at Alvord's Custom Meats. I'm Dylan Honcoop, and this is the Real Food, Real People podcast, traveling all over Washington State to get to know the real people behind our food. Our sponsors are Manna Insurance Group. You can find them at mannainsurancegroup.com, where they help you plan to protect your financial future. Be proactive, not reactive when things go wrong. That's what they're all about. And Dan Vanderkoy, their founder, was a high school classmate of mine. I've known him for a long, long time, and I know a lot of folks on their team as well. Great folks, very trustworthy, and they mean it when they say they want to plan for what's best for you, not what's best for them or anyone else. Also, Dairy Farmers of Washington, wadairy.org is their website, sharing the real stories of Washington dairy and the incredible dairy products that are produced by family farms here in Washington State. It's really cool to see a lot of this. We talk with dairy farmers here on the podcast, certainly, but they have so many more resources available, again, at wadairy.org, including a virtual farm tour and lots of other stuff. So check that out. Again, the Dairy Farmers of Washington, we thank them for their sponsorship of the podcast as well. So this is where the magic happens.
Yes.
In here.
Yes.
This is where I see all those photos on Instagram from where you're cutting meat.
I try.
What does a normal day look like for you? Cutting meat, getting meat ready for people to take home and eat.
Busy.
Yeah.
A lot of work. There's a lot going on, just a lot of meat cutting, you know what I mean? Getting orders out, too, you know what I mean? Some beef are extremely huge.
Yeah.
Some are really small, Same with the hogs and game and stuff like that. So it varies. Some days can be pretty nice, but there's a lot of days where we have, all 1,000-pound beef, And it's a rough day. We get through it, but it's a rough day.
But does that let you do different stuff, get more of different kinds of cuts out of an animal?
Yeah, we try. I've learned a lot of different things over the years, and I try and give them a lot of the things that they don't know about, different for everybody, I guess, just different. A lot of people will take a whole 1,000-pound cow, though, and they put everything in the burger. I mean, they save their steaks, but they put, the best piece, their chuck, they put that in the hamburger. Some people even put their prime rib in there, their whole T-bone section, you know what I mean? Save it or give it away to someone, you know what I mean? You don't have to grind it all, but that's what they want. So.
I remember talking about that on the podcast last season with Bobby Morrison about the same thing. He's like, oh, don't send that to grind.
Yeah.
That's good stuff.
Yeah.
But maybe it comes down to cooking.
That too,
and people knowing how to cook those different cuts, right?
Yeah, for sure.
What are the good cuts that people don't know about?
Mainly out of the chuck. Everyone just burgers it, just put it in the burger. But you can, once you bone it out, make it boneless. You can get some few nice chuck eyes out of there, a couple of chuck eyes, and then you can pull your flat iron, and then tie up the rest of it for roast and stuff like that. You can get boneless short ribs from there. In the stores, they label them boneless short rib, and it actually comes from the chuck, and people thinks it's a rib. You know what I mean?
Right.
And like a Denver steak, which is the same thing as a boneless short rib, I guess.
What are those like? I can't say I've ever cooked one of those.
They're good. They're great. It's my favorite piece. It's a nice chuck eye, even with a little bit of the Denver on there. You know what I mean?
Is that something that you have to cook slower Or I just don't even know the cut. Or can you throw it on the grill and sear it like a steak?
Yeah.
I mean,
that's how I do it, on the grill or in the pan.
It's not something tricky like brisket or something.
No, brisket takes forever.
Yeah.
You know, but if you know how to do it, I'm like the biggest cook or whatever, but
yeah.
we'll throw some on the grill every once in a while. With a brisket, I've never even messed with, to be honest. Like, I don't have a smoker or nothing like that, you know.
Yeah.
We could cook it, I'm sure, but it's a process.
Has being involved in cutting meat changed the way you cook?
Yeah, I would say, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I used to not, like, for the first couple of years working in the shop, I honestly, I don't think I even ate a steak until I started cutting meat, to be honest. It was just like ground beef or roast, you know. I was always like, ew, steak, you know what I mean? Like, you know. And then we got some one day and tried it. I was like, man, why haven't I been eating these? These are really good, you know. But yeah, we do a lot of different stuff now, I would say, and especially with ground beef, it's so much different than in the store. You know what I mean? Like, coming from a shop or an animal that you cut. Like,
well, explain that. Like, a lot of people, and myself included, sometimes is just like, wow, ground beef's ground beef. But
right.
You're saying it's not all created equal.
And I think a lot of it is because when you cut up a whole animal, there's a lot more parts going in to the grind, which gives it more of a better flavor, I would say. Like, we had some from Safeway the other night, and I don't know if I'm allowed to say Safeway or not, if we're like sponsored or something.
No, you're good.
It's just, I don't like it at all, you know. I just don't. It's just weird and it's funky, and they just use certain sections for it. You know, it's not like they're not getting a little bit of sirloin, a little bit of chuck, a little bit of brisket. You know, a lot of people put everything in there, and they want it all ground beef because they love the ground beef. It's just, there's something different about it. It cooks completely different, you know. Like, I don't know. I really like it.
You always see, like, also the percentage of fat in it. And a lot of people are into lean. Me personally, my health journey and, like, nutrition and stuff, I'm realizing, no, like, fat's actually really good for me.
Right.
It's not what they told us it was for so many years.
Right.
So I'm like, I don't want the fatty stuff. I like a good juicy burger. But how do you even do that? Like, I saw you filling tubes of ground beef the other day in here on Instagram. And, like, how do you know what percentage fat it is? Like, do you weigh that out or something ahead of time?
We don't. There's a machine you can get, like in the stores, they have a thing. They just plug it and it'll tell you the percentage. Here we just go off of what do we got to grind. You know, if it looks like there's extra fat in there, then we lean it out as good as possible. A lot of people ask for lean, but to be honest, it comes out lean already. Like, unless it's like, we get some really, really, they're all pretty fat, you know, the big ones, but there's like different kind of fat. I don't know what you would call it, but like, I mean, it's like super soft melt that you can't, it just runs through the whole animal and you can't even get it out of there, you know. So so every once in a long while you get a really fatty one, but even like 1,000-pound cow that's, you know, super fatty, you take some of the ground beef, cook it up, whatever. People are draining it like you know, from the stuff from the stores, and here they're like, man, it's, you know, it's really good. We don't have to drain it. We don't have to this. And a lot of people still ask for lean. I'm like, man, it's pretty lean. Like, it's a lot leaner than you think, you know?
Yeah.
But we just put it on there and say, yeah. And we get it the leanest we can, you know what I mean? But
yeah. So how did you learn all this stuff? How did you get into this?
My mother was a meat cutter. She worked in this shop right here. She started it like in the 90s with another guy here. And I sat in that little room the whole time and, you know,
so
watched
you've seen this your whole life?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
And then they moved on from here and she started working in the grocery store. So she worked as a meat cutter in the grocery store after that the rest of my life.
Yeah.
And then one day I was doing something and I got a call and my cousin said, hey, we need help down here. You want to come, you know, try it out? And I was like,
so your family was still doing it, or they had a different meat shop?
My cousin here, he had started here originally. I started like 2 weeks after him, something like that.
I see, yeah.
And they needed help at the time in the busy season. And I was like, yeah, I'll come check it out and try it out. And so I did it a couple of the seasons here. And then it was a slow time, so you had to get laid off, you know. So I got laid off and I went to another shop across town, Jerry's Valley Meats, and he taught me a few things there. I worked for him for like a year. And then Jim called me back and said, hey, you want to come back over here? And so I came back here, and then I went full time after that ever since. And he's an old school guy, so he did everything I know I learned from him. I tried to put my own thing on it after I figured out what
Yeah.
every part was, you know,
Yeah.
and what different things you could do.
Well, because there's a lot of art to it.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
You're an artist. You're a meat artist.
I try. A lot of people do it a different way. This is a more, I would say, traditional, old school way on some of the things. A lot of people tell me we do it this way or this way, and it goes for anybody at any shop, however you're set up. You know what I mean? Like some hang them in quarters, some hang them in halves. You know what I mean? So it's just all in the setup, really. But yeah, I learned right here, and there was this guy that brings in a lot of feedlot beef, and he donates it all. Like he'll take some stuff for himself, but we'll have 100 boxes for him, and they'll come loaded up in a truck. But that's where I learned to do a lot of things, because he cares or whatever. But like you could try different things that you never had tried before, because he's got so much. Try this, try that, and so we did it, and then just seemed to come, I don't know, like second nature, or however you say it. And I'm picky too, now that I know how to do it, I'm like, I try and be on it with certain things, you know what I mean? Like, that's just how I was taught as well.
So you're talking about doing different things. Like, give me some examples of, like, how do you do things differently? To me, it would be like, okay, here's, a quarter of a cow.
Right.
You're just going to cut the pieces apart. But there's a lot more to it. What kinds of different choices can you make?
Cutting wise?
Yeah.
Oh, man, I'm always learning still to this day. You can never learn enough in this place. I see other people do things on Instagram as well. I'm like, man, that really worked out nice. Like I'm going to try that here type of thing. You know what I mean? And that's really helped. But just little things like the tip of the steak, if it's not, straight, I'm like super picky about trimming things. Like some guys just do it however. I want it to look every single one. So I'll take just an extra second to make it look perfect every time. And same with like if you're deboning, for the ground beef, if there's any like the dry age that's on it, there's little black spots or whatever. And that's what I was taught my whole life, get it out of there. And I've been at different places and see people their ways, just grind it, you know what I mean? If I catch it, I pull it out, and clean it up, whatever black was on there or whatever, ugly pieces on there, just to make it that little bit more better, I guess I would say. But
so this is like you're talking about, and I'm saying this is art that you do, really. It's food that people are going to eat. And this, you're talking about like a more traditional approach. And this kind of shop, it's like your old school, small, country butcher shop. The way that, and a lot of people have been wanting that. You know, they don't want to just go to a big box store and get whatever they're going to slap on the counter. Well, not even on the counter, whatever is already shrink wrapped and on the shelf. They want somebody who actually put some intention into it.
Take what they can get. Yeah, no, I put every ounce of my energy into it. That's for sure. There's even people that will come here and watch us cut their beef, because they're like, no, we didn't get all our meat back, or you took something, you know what I mean? Like that's at every shop everywhere. You'll hear that from any meat cutter in a butcher shop. And we're like, okay, well, just come watch. And then they see what all gets cut off, you know what I mean? Like a ton of fat, there's a lot of bone loss, you know what I mean? And just add a little bit of dry age too, you cut off. And especially if they do like their animal all boneless, like where you're losing, I know the bone's not meat, but you took that bone out, like it's a little bit of loss there. And then they come and watch and they're like, oh man. So basically you're not, it is all there,
Yeah.
But
there's not a lot of people though that have these kinds of skills anymore.
Right. It's hard. It's hard. Yes. It's hard to find a meat cutter. You know what I mean? Like really hard.
So that's, I guess, why I'm asking how you learned it and like, how could somebody else get into it? Because we're at a time when people are starting to see the value in the stuff that folks like yourself do.
Right.
Cutting meat.
Yeah. It just goes back to my old boss. He just had that fire and he gave me the opportunity to learn different things and jump around. That's why I can do, any machine here I can use, you know what I mean? Any type of cut you want, I can do it. And some shops won't, they don't offer it. They don't want you to know about, because a lot of us are like, oh man, we don't want to bone the chuck, or we don't want to, do this boneless. And, some people will bring in like tiny little cows, like the whole cow weighs like 300 pounds. And it should still be alive in a field somewhere, honestly, but they want everything. You know what I mean? And they come back every year with the same little cow, and I'm like, like, raise a bigger one, you know what I mean? Like, it's just all on their taste, I guess. They've been used to it for so many years, I guess, but we see some rough ones.
Also, like, American culture isn't used to all the parts of the animal either.
Right.
You look at some more traditional cultures. I think of like Hispanic culture, which that community is so big here.
Yes.
In this area, and I love it because they use other parts of the animal that normally either get thrown to grind or tossed entirely.
Just thrown away. Yeah, the offal. Yeah, stuff like that.
So, how much difference does that make? Based on your, who you're cutting it for. Like if you have a Hispanic family that you're cutting meat for, they're probably going to want different stuff. Right?
Yeah, they usually like the thinner steaks, and usually like the thin sliced meat and like chopped up meat, like for like tacos, like picada and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I worked at a carniceria in Zilla for a while, and I knew it like everything there is to know, really, you know what I mean? But going there and seeing their style, everything was completely different, and all the different things that they used. And I ended up learning a lot of Spanish while I was there, and I still use it now.
Nice.
And I still keep in touch with them too. They're super good people. I couldn't be more thankful for them. They're awesome, but they do all the cool stuff, from fish to tails to tongues to chicharrones,
I like the cabeza.
Yeah, cabeza, yeah. They have those too.
Yeah, I love that stuff. Some people get weird about that though. Think it's gross. I'm like, it's meat.
Yeah, especially like the
Does it
cheeks
taste
like
good?
The barbacoa, yeah.
It tastes good. I love it. If it doesn't taste good, I don't like it. That's bottom line.
Right? Yeah, if you like it, you like it. You know what I mean? You get a good homegrown raised beef, and it's just there's nothing like it. Same with a pork or even wild game. You know what I mean? It's just. Like a lot of people will add, like they'll take beef fat for their grind, for their deer or elk, stuff like that. And it really does flavor it up. But a lot of people we do actually get they want the suet, to save the fat like the neighbor lady over here, she I think it's her that does it. Save the fat and, use it for to make pie crust and
there's lots of stuff that you can
all kinds of stuff that I didn't even know. You know what I mean? Until I started working, and I was like, man, this is the stuff we need to be saving
exactly
and keeping and using, because it really all has something for everyone, down to the bones for stock. A lot of people save that too. They even do like for the marrow ones. They want the marrow ones so they can cook their little canoe and scoop it for some bread and eat it. People love that stuff. I've never tried it myself yet, but one of these days I will, I'm sure.
But you can't just go anywhere and get that
and
kind
get
of stuff.
That stuff.
You got to have a specialty place like you guys,
right? Yeah,
to do it.
Right, they got to buy the animal or have raised the animal themselves, type of thing, and because we're not allowed to just give you, just anybody just bones. Like if it's your animal though, you can take the bones all you want. You know what I mean?
So why is that? What kind of rules do you guys have to follow?
I think it just goes with the government. Like if we were to just hand out someone bones and they went home and they cooked the bones and they're like, oh, I got super sick, you know what I mean? Right. And then it comes back on us, and then I don't know how it would work out in the end. I'm sure we would get in trouble somehow. Someone would make something of it, but so we're really picky on that too.
So you guys are a custom exempt shop.
Yes.
Which means what?
The animal, like anything we cut is not for sale. Like in the slower time, we'll make certain things, that you can sell that we ordered in that's already been USDA inspected type of thing. You can turn it into sausage or pepperoni or whatever, and we can sell that type of thing. But the exempt is if it's your animal, you can take it, and I believe it has to be alive before, like you sell it. Like each package we make, it says not for sale right on it. You're not supposed to go just sell it to anybody, So you sell it alive, whether it's quarter or a half. This person puts their deposit down, and then we call them, get their cutting order, cut it however they want it.
So they've basically bought a share of the animal,
right?
And then it gets slaughtered, and they get what they get,
right?
Versus coming in here and saying, "I want 3 T-bones,"
right?
To bring home to make for dinner. You can't do that.
Yeah, I know. And people come in here all the time asking for that and calling and, do you take food stamps, stuff like that? And I was like, I wish we did, honestly. You know what I mean? I wish we could do something like that, but it just goes with these kind of old school shops. It's hard to really sell anything. Because like the guy across town, like he had a steakhouse and his butcher shop that he's had for he's 75 years old. He's had it since like the 70s. And while he was running the steakhouse, a guy went down there that had his beef in his shop and got a steak and was like, this is from my cow. Mm-hmm. And it's like, how would you even know that? You know what I mean? Like, that guy's the last person on earth that would take a piece of your meat. You know what I mean? He's got whatever he needs. You know what I mean? He doesn't need your cow.
Yeah.
And, so he went out of business on that because it's coming back on him. And he used to do a lot of retail in there too. But everyone thinks he took it from their cow and is selling it in his storefront. So it makes it super hard on places,
Well, and like you mentioned, USDA, that's the USDA or federally inspected stuff, that meat, that's the stuff that can be sold retail cut by cut.
Right.
What do those guys do different than what you guys do? I mean,
they just watched it get killed or something, there's nothing specific, I guess. They're just there. It's like they seen it or something. I don't know what their deal is with that. I don't see why we couldn't just cut something and sell it. You know what I mean? But
see, that's crazy to me because I think meat is meat.
Right.
Whether it's a state inspector or a federal inspector, who cares? We're producing food here. I guess, I try not to get political on the podcast, but I think it's crazy that here we produce so much meat and could produce a lot more in our local communities.
Right.
But most people can't, there's a lot of people that can't buy a quarter or a half of a beef.
Yeah. It's expensive.
But they would love and they would spend extra money to come down here or wherever and buy local, farm-raised beef by the cut because they can do that, but they're not allowed to.
Right. I think that's something we're eventually going to try and get into down the road. You know what I mean? Just to because that's something I want to do in the long run. I want to be able to have a shop and I'm cutting a cow and the people are right there watching and they're like, oh, I want, they can see you breaking it down. They're like, oh, give me a chunk of this, and it's right off the animal right there. Like, I would love to do something like that. I don't know how it would work, but I would love to do that just because it's different. It's way different.
Well, it's real, and that's how things were done for eons.
Yes. And now it's so much different. And the whole older cow thing, we get some that are in here that are pretty old. That's why it's cousin. It's your cow, you want to butcher your old cow, whatever. It's cool. You can eat it, whatever. And people, it says not for sale, but they turn around and sell it anyway. They're like, who cares?
Some people do that.
Yeah.
Well, that's on them, though,
yeah,
right?
it's on them. After that, I'm pretty sure they do. But we'll see some, 7, 8 years old, and the bones are hard as a rock, all calloused up, but some really nice meat in there. You know what I mean? Beautiful, prime, a lot of them.
Wow.
It's unbelievable. I'm like, man, this is an old cow, but it sure is freaking nice.
You mentioned prime. What is the difference between all the grades?
I'm not a real expert on that. You know what I mean?
You guys being custom exempt don't have to worry about putting a certain
right. And people will ask us,
or,
what did you think? You know what I mean? A lot of them are. To be honest, a lot of them I would say are prime or better. The big hefty ones. We see some that are in here that look like Wagyu, you know what I mean? Just marble to the max. And it's that's got to be prime. But then we see these little tiny ones, and you're like, that's pretty low on the scale.
Really?
You know what I mean?
Really lean.
Yeah, it's super lean. They're like, make sure it's lean. You know what I mean? It's it's lean before it came in.
So a lot of it has to do with fat and marbling. It's not like prime is better per se, other than it has more fat in it. And it's probably going to be more juicy and all that. Right.
There's another guy, he knows a lot of that stuff. I've never really got to sit down and take the time, and me seeing it, I'm like, oh yeah, that's great. That's definitely a choice beef or a prime beef or select. And there's a lot of different, more than just those 3 grades. I think there's a few more, 4 or 5 more. But throughout the days, you'll see it. And over the years, it's just from your eye. You see it and you're like, oh yeah, that's definitely prime, or that's pretty high choice, or the lean ones are definitely select. But we'll see some small ones too, 400, 500 pounds, and they are just beautiful. I'm like, holy cow, this is the kind of animal I would want to get instead of like this big old 1,000-pounder. You have to pay for all that weight, but you could get a 500-pounder for half the price, and it's just as nice. There's this dairy guy down the road that we do a lot for, and he saves everything, absolutely everything. The bones, the fat. We just fill up a bunch of boxes for him, and he uses it to feed his dogs. He uses all that, and we'll cut it, and he'll show up. He's like, "Save me out a pack of steaks. I want to try it off that that certain one."
Those dogs are lucky.
Yeah, they are. He has quite a few too. They train them. We get a lot of people that save them for their animals as well. They want we get people that come want it for every day for the rest of their life, to take to feed their pack of wolves or whatever they got, And then there's other people like hunters too that use it to bait and stuff like that. I don't know how legal it is, but it's yours. You take it. You know what I mean? It's your animal. You do whatever. I didn't hear what you just said, type of thing. You know what I mean? Down the road.
You're doing your job.
Yeah.
You're following your rules.
Yeah.
That's on them.
You do what you got to do.
Yeah. So what is the process? I hear about some shops like you guys have mobile slaughter units that will actually go to the farm. Do you guys do that too?
Yeah, we have our own kill truck and our own kill guy. And this time of year, sometimes he'll go out and help another guy who is our main butcher. They've been coming here for probably over 20 years, I would assume. But he's the best butcher or slaughterman around, I would say. You won't see a nicer animal from anyone else. It doesn't matter if it's a tiny, crappiest, oldest thing you ever seen or the nicest one. He makes it. The split is perfect every single time. They're clean, they're washed, and then you get some people that just bring it in and it's what'd you do, roll it around in the ground before you brought it? You know what I mean? And it's custom, so that's what it is. We cut it all off, whatever's bad. Right. But they have their own truck, and he goes out on the weekends and helps fill it up. We're already full, but they like to overfill it, just to be safe, type of thing.
So then the carcass is brought in and put in your cooler.
Yeah,
and
then in the drip room.
So what happens from there? Because you guys have to age it. What's the step-by-step process there?
We let them hang. We separate them when they're hot. You don't want to push them up too close, type of deal, because make it spoil, kind of thing. If it's sitting in a cooler, pushed together while it's hot, you know what I mean?
You let the cool air get around.
Yeah. We let it cool overnight, type of deal, and then you can shove them up after that. They can be close together, whatever. And it just depends on this time of year where it's 14 days, and a lot of people, they try 21, they want 28, we want 35. We did one time that was 56 days.
Really?
And I was like, man, this thing is going to fall off the hook. I mean.
So it just gets more and more tender the longer you age it.
That's what they say. I've never really ate dry aged, and it doesn't look the most appealing, but once you cut off all that stuff, after it's been hanging that long, it looks really nice under there. I'm like, man, maybe there is something to this. And regular customers that we've cut for years, they're that's their standard is 21 or 28, and we'll do that for them. But there's a lot of people nowadays that seen something on the internet, and we can't hang everybody's animal for, we've got to keep the flow going. We can't shove it off in the corner.
And there's not room to have some sit there for over 28 days.
Yeah, we'll see you in a couple weeks, type of deal. No, we can't do that right now. But a couple here and there, and the slower time too, we'll hang them, as long as you want. But
so you say dry aged, but are there different aging processes that can be used other than dry aged?
I'm sure there's a wet age, and I think that's what we do right now. We cut it it's in there drying and cooling off, so it's not dry age. It has to be in a certain temperature, humidity type of thing. Okay. Here it's in here dry aging. You know what I mean? But to me, when I'm saying dry age, I just mean the dark stuff that's on it that we cut off in the end, type of deal. Yeah. But the wet age, I believe, is what we do. We just pull it out, we cut it, and we package it. It's not. I think the name makes it sound funky, wet age. It makes it seem like it's wet going in there, but it's really nice. We use this little Sealotron thing, and if it didn't look nice going in there, it absolutely looks really nice once it went through the machine. It sucks it up really nice. It's all nice and clear,
So you have half a cow hanging, it's in two pieces, basically?
Yeah, all in quarters.
Quarters or half?
Quarters.
Okay. And so then you'll bring the quarter in here from the cooler after it's had its 14 or 21 or whatever you're doing as far as the aging. And then what do you do? Start breaking it down.
Break it down, check the cutting order, see exactly what they want, row size, how much or how thick they want their steaks, how many in a package, whether they, how much ground beef in a package, if they want stew meat or, save the brisket, save the shanks, not very many people ask for the flat irons and stuff like that, but if it says, we pull it. And then like lately it's been like a tomahawk craze. Like everyone, it's just a ribeye steak, just with the long bone. And they're cool, it's really cool. I like to take pictures of them and stuff too, but it's like, it's been a
still
lot.
Just a ribeye steak, on it, whether there's extra bone or
right.
not. Yeah.
Or the cowboy one with the little bone on there. It's all the same. And you have to go in between each bone, so it's a little bit thicker than. I couldn't just grab a tomahawk and be like, oh, cut me a 1-inch tomahawk. They're gonna be like 2 inches, 2.5 inches. Because you're going in between. But lately, there's been a lot of that. It used to not be anything. Like we would love it, like just burger this and burger that, and save it. Now everybody's like, save everything, and cut it thin. Everything, a lot of people anyway. And some people, like I said earlier, they burger the whole thing. We're like, man, and we'll even call them. Like, hey, I know you said when we talked last, but are you sure you want this to go on the hamburger? And they're like, yeah, burger it. Okay, you got it, man. We'll do that. There's a lady that comes every year with the half of beef. Same lady every year puts it into hamburger. The whole thing, nice beef. There's another person we cut for it, and the lady gets 2 beef, and she has us turn one of the whole cows, like nice beef, into ground beef for her dogs, and she cooks it, and really spoils
some gourmet eating dogs.
Spoiled dogs, I would say.
Yeah,
I mean, to get a cow for your dog every year, it's like, whoa.
It's probably better meat than I eat.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, whoa, man, can't believe that. Those dogs are eating good for sure. And like the liver, she wants that all grinded up and with the heart and the tongues and, grind it all, save it for her. And the liver, when you grind it, it's not like you would think like regular grind, it's just mush. Yeah. So we'll grind it through with the heart and then freeze it and then cut them frozen. And then like you could just like take your little puck and like set it in the dog bowl or whatever you do and it'll melt after that.
A lot of people don't like some of those organs and stuff.
Right.
But there's more and more focus, I think, too, on the nutrition with those.
Yeah.
Like I read different things. People who are really hardcore, there's a ton of nutrients like in liver and stuff. I really should get into it more and learn what I'm actually doing because it's actually pretty incredible. Even though, 50 years ago, people decided they didn't like liver and onions. Right. And so a lot of people, most people don't have that anymore.
I think that's what gave it the stigma, too, is like, oh, liver and onion, you see it. And so me growing up the same way, I was like, oh, and then when like I get a liver and cut it up, I'm like, oh, man, this is horrible. Like, but a lot of people will save them, and take them. And I see it a lot on the internet nowadays. People are eating it. It's like, calf liver and like, just eat what's there. You know what I mean? You don't have to get that stuff, but they love it. And that's fine. You know what I mean? Yeah. That's totally fine.
So how many cows do you butcher in a day here?
Cut and wrap it. We all do it right here in this room together. So if like, it's usually 4 guys and my cousin's wife, and she'll wrap it. If we're all here, depending on the size, we can get 6 to 8, Yeah. Lately we've been getting a lot of 8s. It just depends on like in October, we were doing a lot of 8s. Right now, 6, 7, we've been getting. Just depend on what's coming in. Like, I think we have 32 beef to cut this week. And that's not counting hogs or lambs or whatever their cousin and uncle brought in their car. Can you do this for me? There's a lot to it. And doing 8 beef a day or 6, it's rough sometimes, depending. Like, it's a lot of work. It's not just... So maybe some people think it's an easy gig, you know what I mean? You got to really like it to do it. And that's why it's so hard to find a meat cutter, you know what I mean? And then if you get someone who's never done it, you got to train them a little bit and watch them. I've seen people cut themselves so many times, and they cut themselves once and they then come back the next day, you know what I mean? And that's why the guy across town, he's hiring year round. He can't keep no one because no one wants to even do this, to be honest. No one wants to.
How dangerous is it?
It can be really dangerous. You got the saw going, slicers. I've seen people, I've gotten close on the saw, you know what I mean? Like get your glove or something So it's probably better not to to have like the metal mesh gloves, but we're not sissies around here. You know what I mean? I learned the old school way, and half the time he didn't even wear gloves. You know what I mean?
Wow.
So, but just even when we're not even cutting meat, one of my buddies, last year, was cleaning the slicer, and we didn't have it zeroed out to where it was closed all the way. Or maybe we did actually, but the sharpener cover was off of it, and he's like looking back at me and talking and cleaning the slicer, and dang near cut his finger off. But he was back with full stitches and wow. Wrapped up and cutting meat the next day. You know what I mean? I felt bad for him, and I've cut myself pretty bad over the years too. And you just got to learn your movements. And I still catch myself cutting towards you or whatever. You know, you just got to be really careful, because sometimes when you're cutting it, it'll either slip or it'll go through a lot easier than you thought it would. And, people do it all the time.
Yeah. Well, it's something that, there's no way around it. You have to use sharp objects, knives, to do what you do.
Yes.
And you could have a machine do it, but this is the whole point.
Right.
It's the art. It's the human touch of you getting the right stuff versus something automated, which is going to be, they can't really do that, can they?
Right. No, I've seen some machines do it, but it's a lot of them are frozen. So they'll take a primal and freeze it and cut it. Like a machine will have a rack of certain things, chuck or prime rib or T-bones, and away the machine goes. But it's not the same, you know what I mean? Especially since it's frozen, cutting it frozen, And a lot of different shops do that, honestly. They'll freeze it and cut certain things. I ain't got time for that. I just you gotta wing it.
Well, this is how the local food movement is going, though, is people want that human touch.
Right.
They want your art in it.
Right.
And the art of the person growing it, cutting it, preparing it, cooking it. They're valuing that rather than having it all be a big machine.
Right.
They're cool with that, and that's what people are interested in. So I think more and more people don't want, some robot to butcher their beef. But back to the local food movement.
Yeah.
That's where it's tough to get more and more people getting that stuff, because there are only so many shops like this, right?
Yeah, no, we need meat cutters. It's definitely a demand. I'm sure the machine thing will still grow over the years, but you could still never do what a person can do meat-wise, I don't think, with the machine. I've seen, they got robots and stuff, breaking stuff and cutting them. I'm like, holy cow, that's really cool. I'd like to have one, but then I'm out of a job at the same time.
Yeah.
And, I just like to do it at the same time. Yeah, it's tough. Sometimes you get wore out, and a lot of times you get wore out, whether it's physically or mentally. But you just got to break through that barrier, and I'm pretty sure every meat cutter's been there and been through it. And last year was probably my toughest year. I was just going through some things, I guess. And
yeah, the local food movement kind of just took off. It was already growing, but it just went crazy with COVID, right?
Yes,
on top of everything.
Yes.
Plus, you had a lot of your own stuff going on.
Yeah, we were already full, but when that COVID first hit in, what was it, the end of 2019 or something, we a lot of the packing houses, it was Tyson or somewhere that had a bunch of pigs. We had a truckload come here from South Dakota, travel all the way over there to here, and we ended up with I'm sure a few other shops ended up with them too, but a ton of them. And they're all, a decent pig is 200 pounds, and that's decent to cut. But when they start getting 350, 400, 450 pounds, that's a big pig, and they're long. It's different than breaking down a beef. It really is, because we're old school here. Other people just they have it where they're that other shop I worked at, they have it where the rail comes out and you can drop the animal right onto the saw and do that. We do it right here, and then we carry it over to the saw type of deal. So it's old school, you know what I mean? It's all by hand. It's super old school. Hand saws, the whole works. And I like doing it that way, though, to be honest. And if you did it other ways, then you wouldn't need, I guess, more people. You know what I mean? There's just a lot of different ways. Like I said, I'm still learning too. I'm pretty comfortable in what I know, but there's always something different.
So you said when you started in this business, 10 years ago or whatever?
Yeah, 2012, just about 10 years.
When you first started, you worked a little bit and then got laid off because there was slow time.
Right.
But from what I've been hearing, since COVID, there has been no
slow time at all. There's no days off, and if you got to take a day off, it's kind of rough on everyone else, you know what I mean? We'll get our weekends, and every once in a while you have to work, a Saturday or so. It happens everywhere, but...
So people are they want local meat.
Yes, it really took off, like more meat than you could even think of. There's certain months, like over the years, where we would just get maybe 20 animals for the month, you know what I mean, in those slow time, and we're getting more than 20 a week, you know what I mean, for this small little shop. Like we got 32, or we have 32 to cut this week. We got like 35 or something last week. It's unreal how much they're packing in there. But
so why is that? What are people saying? They just want to get meat from a source they trust?
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Because they seen something on TV or they read it in the news or whatever it is. And they're calling. We get people that we have to turn away right now. They're like, when can I get in? You know, and it's like, not till April, man. We're booked until April, like solid. And even then, there's a couple cancellations here and there, and they're good at calling them back and squeezing people. And they really like to do the squeezing. And I'm like, look, man, hey, we're really busy. We got a lot going on. Do we really need to take that one? They're like, oh, let's take 5 more. Just to get them going, you know, type of thing. But no, the people love it. They really want. So many animals. It's been, and big ones too. I mean, way more bigger ones than in the past. I mean, huge ones. I wasn't here, but they got like a 1,600 pounder.
Wow.
A while back, shortly before I came back, and I seen pictures of it, and it was huge, man. The biggest one I did was like 14. You know what I mean? But a 16 is like huge, big ones. The people love it, though, and the whole COVID thing has really, I would say, given us more of an opportunity. It sucks because you're working harder, you're working longer days, you know what I mean? But that's with any job, I guess you would say, you know what I mean? I mean, not every job, but because this one's super physical, but a lot of meat and a lot of people.
Where does your meat go? Does it all stay local pretty much, or does it
Some of it, but a lot of it, like, man, you would be surprised. Like that guy I was talking about, the feedlot guy that donates it. His sister runs like a homeless shelter in like New York City or something like that.
Wow.
Somewhere super far. And they come and load up a ton of it here, and then they ship it to, or you know, they drive it to like Idaho or something, and then they put it on a trailer there and drive it all the way over there. It's like unbelievable. And this same guy, every year he takes a beef to his daughter to Michigan, comes with dry ice, loads it up, and drives it for like 3 days or whatever it takes him. Takes it to Michigan. We do a lot for Seattle. I mean, the Seattle people are on it, and I'm like, don't they have a butcher shop over there? Why are you guys getting it cut here? You know what I mean? But it's because they seen an advertisement, farmer selling something here, you know, here locally, and they're like, let's give that a try. You know, there is some really badass shops in Seattle though, like the Beast and Cleaver. I don't know if you've seen them.
Yeah,
they're unbelievable. That Kevin Smith guy and his crew, holy cow, man, they're the real dude. That's the definition of what I would want. He does a lot of fancy stuff too, like cooking and all that stuff that I'm nowhere close, but like I would say they're even more old school than here, man. They break it all on the table.
But they don't have cows out in their backyard there either.
True.
Right?
Very true. No.
So that's the advantage you guys have, is you're right in around the farms.
Yeah, I mean, we watch these cows grow right across the street all year, and then we just cut them like 2 weeks ago. It's the same thing every year. I mean, they're all around. They're everywhere.
It doesn't get any more local than that.
Yeah, no, it doesn't.
That's
and awesome. They live, you know, just right there. They take part of it too. They sell like 6 and make enough to where they can get their half for free, basically, type of deal. Big old cows too, big nice beef, and we watch them grow. Yeah, every year, and then we will see them gone for the winter, and then come spring they got a few more out there again and raise them up to around this time and do it up, man.
You show a lot of what you do on social media.
I like
mostly Instagram, right?
Yeah. I have a TikTok, but...
How did you get started doing that?
The Instagram?
Yeah.
I made one time, and, you know, I never really got on it. And then I started, like, taking pictures, and I would post them. And then, like people started, like, following me and liking it, you know what I mean? And then I was like, I follow them back, and I see what they're all... You're a meat cutter, too. You're doing your thing, too. And I watch them, you know. I'm like, man, this is really cool. And... the reason why I do it is because I want people to see, I should say, is what I'm seeing. I want you to see, like, from every angle, you know what I mean? I want you to see exactly, like, there's certain videos I've done where, I mean, from pulling the felt to, you know, shooting the burger to, ripping that flat iron out of there, you know, just certain, I want them to, and a lot of people will comment and say, man, that's really cool, you know, it's cool.
Well, a lot of people want to see where their food comes from.
Yeah, that too,
right?
Yeah.
Rather than just go to the store and you have no idea.
Right.
Well, now you're giving them a window into something that Otherwise, you couldn't have seen.
Yeah, no, I get people call me, message me like, hey, man, can I get this? Can I get that? Like, how do I? I'm like, I'm sorry, man. It's just custom. Like, one of these days, we're going to get into that where I'm going to help out every one of you guys. You know what I mean? But at least they get to see when you go to a custom shop, how, what you're getting type of deal. It's like in a store, you never know. You honestly don't. I'm not saying the stores are bad. Just I've seen certain things, that the stores does, and it's not, to them it's code or whatever, but
right.
To me it's
not the way you would do it.
Yeah, no, not at all. Not at all.
Because you said you're picky.
Yeah, I am picky. I learned that from the guy across town and the old guy here. Nowadays they're not so picky here. I'll like tell, hey, what's up with that black stuff right there? Cut it off type of deal. And they get all upset. I'm like, I'm not judging you. I'm just making you better and making it better for the next person. Yeah. People kind of take offense by it or cutting it a certain way or whatever. I'm like, come on, man, get it together. Like,
yeah.
Just because if I went to a shop, that's how I would want it. I don't want to be like a butthead to people. And like people will call here too, like, oh yeah, I used to have a shop where I used to cut meat. I want this. And we're like, oh God, here we go. Another one of these guys, huh? Really? they honestly don't even know what they're talking about. Their grandpa had a shop in the 40s. You know what I mean? I'm like, man, it's came a long way since then, man.
Yeah.
It's funny though. Yeah, I used to be a meat cutter. Oh, awesome. You want to still cut some? You know what I mean? Come on in. A lot of people would say, hey,
clock in tomorrow morning.
Yeah, we tell people all the time, put some gloves on. We'll put you to work, It's funny.
So you get a lot of good response on social media.
Yeah.
People love it. I know.
I'm thankful for it, too.
You get tons of likes, and you have a lot of followers, and it's pretty amazing.
I try, and it's not for that. I just like to share it. You know what I mean? And I've gotten a lot of love over, from it over I would say these last 2 years, but this last year especially. All those other butcher guys on there and the store cutters and just random people in general that I've made friends with and talk to. People just message me all the time. It's crazy. And then you end up making friends with them, but all those dudes on there are super cool. They've really helped me this last year getting, mentally right. And because a lot of times you want to give up, man. It's a tough business. It really is. And you're at your end, you're at the end of it and you're like, man, what am I doing? Is this what I want to do? But really it's what I want to do. You know what I mean?
So why is that? Why is it so hard? Just because it's so demanding?
I would say so. It's like, man, can I let's take a week off. You know what I mean? But it's not like that. It's like the meat's in there. You can't just take a week and be like, oh yeah, we'll get to it when we get to it. No, you need to get to it, type of deal. And it's good. Cause like I said, it's not every day we're working, but, it's just a lot, especially how it was before. It was a lot of just me doing the main, and I like to spread it around for everyone. You know what I mean? If you can learn something cool, learn it. I'm not going to put it all on you, but I like everybody to get a little bit of variety. You know what I mean? Instead of just putting the one thing like it used when I was doing it before. It was just me. I broke it all down, cut it all, scraped it all. Trimmed it all, and half the time I wrapped it myself too. When they first started here, it was just the two of us.
Wow.
And so he did all the deboning and ran the burger, and I cut and wrapped every freaking animal, and it would just be the two of us, and we'd get 3.5, you know what I mean, on a full day just from two people, and that's pretty good for two people considering, you know what I mean. But it was hard, man. It was hard, and then even when we had a whole crew here, it was just me doing it at the time. You know what I mean? I just wanted like switch me out, just for a little bit. I'll do what you're doing just, for a half, whatever. And it just wasn't working that way. And then now it's been pretty good. My cousin will break it right there, and then I'll run what needs to be ran on the saw, cut what needs to be cut on the table, all that stuff, just a little bit. So it takes a little bit of the pressure. When you're the only one doing it, there's so much pressure on you to feed everybody in here, to keep everybody busy, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you don't want people just, standing there watching you, and you're not being rude. You just want to have something for everyone till it's time for, lunch or whatever it is. But it was a lot. It was a lot on me, and it's still a lot for every person, I think. And depending, there's some big ass shops, man, big ones where it's pretty set. This one's old school, and it's been running pretty smooth now. I'm glad to be back, to be honest.
What was the hardest time for you with all of that?
Just the mental. I was going through something that I don't really talk about it, but I was just going through something, and, with like anxiety, and I would probably say depression, stuff like that. And, I've talked to doctors, and they tried me on all sorts of medications and stuff. And, I tried them, but it didn't work. You know what I mean? It didn't work. I had to learn to just, I guess, leave it here, instead of going home and worrying about the next giant one that I got to pull out in the morning or stuff like that. I had to learn. It took me a little while to get over it and just learn. Now that I'm back, I'm like, you know what? I don't even care. Like, I care, but not like I'm not thinking about it anymore. You know what I mean? Like, I used to just go home and dwell on it. And I got in a bad place myself, probably doing things that I shouldn't have been doing. You know what I mean? And just finding myself. And we started having kids, and I didn't want them to see me that way. I didn't want to be a burden on anyone, put anyone in any kind of position. I've been in trouble, you know what I mean? Not like crazy like trouble or anything like that. Just trouble, and I did what I needed to do and got it all out of my path, or I put it behind me, you know what I mean? Yeah. And I'm good to go, I'm on the straight and narrow, and it's been going good.
Well,
it was rough though.
I mean, we're at a time where people are finally being able to talk about mental health stuff.
Yes.
I don't know, that's something that I've done. It's something that we've talked about with and like in the farming community, and I would imagine the butcher community. And these are like blue collar, salt of the earth kind of people. And that culture is just like tough it out.
Yeah. And so exactly. And that's what I did.
And it doesn't work.
It doesn't work. Eventually it catches up with you.
You have to take care of yourself. And mental health is a thing, and you can make it better or worse depending on what you do. It's not just whatever. But because these communities are, just be a tough guy.
Yeah.
I think in some ways they're the last to be willing to talk about it, do something about it. And so I think it's really cool to hear people like yourself and other, farmers, like I said, I've talked to on the podcast about these kinds of things, because it affects everybody.
Yeah.
And it doesn't help anybody if nobody says anything about it.
I learned that. And seeing, like you're saying, seeing people talk about it now, it makes it easier for you to put it out there too, say something, and like, don't be scared to get help or talk to somebody type of deal. And the people have reached out to me, and it really made me look at things different and just enjoy life and just get it together, be a better person in the end. And I'm getting there every day, just trying to be a little bit better,
I know for me, like when, times I've struggled, at first it was like, I felt like I was crazy, because I thought I was the only one.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Then you talk to somebody else and you're like, oh, you've gone through that too? Oh yeah. And you start talking to more and more people, and it's like, okay, maybe I'm not a freak.
Yeah. Exactly. Like there's a place here in town, it's a mental health place. And like, I'm not saying bad on anyone, but there's people there that they're legit crazy. Like they don't know what's going on. Like,
and going through issues myself now, like I get that. Before I didn't understand that. Now I'm like, if I wouldn't have taken care of myself, I could have been there too.
You could have been there. Yeah. That's how I looked at it with myself too. I had to get it together. I was losing it there for a bit. I like I said, I was doing things, and I don't mean bad things, but like I'm just harming myself. You know what I mean? Like, in a bad way, and it wasn't, and I thought it was helping me. In the long run, it wasn't. You know what I mean? Yep. And I talked, there's a doctor here in town. He's my guy. Shout out to Dr. Weaver, by the way. He's a good guy.
Awesome.
But he helped me through a lot of things, and look at life different. He's super cool, man. I mean, just he gets it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like with the whole anxiety, like I don't even know what anxiety is, but I got it. Like you can't describe it. Exactly. Like no matter what you say, you can't describe it to someone. And it comes in waves, and it'll come and go. And sometimes it's good, and I still get it. You know what I mean? I'll still every once in a while I'll catch myself down a little bit, and I'm like, hey, snap out of it. You know what I mean? Get it together, guy. And it's easier to do that now. Before I was just like, I didn't care at all. Like, and it was getting bad for me.
Yeah, I've had it described to me as like it can be an overwhelming sense of doom.
Yeah.
And I have that where I have that sense, and sometimes it's for a reason, because maybe something actually bad is happening.
Right.
But I'll notice it when it's like, wait a second, nothing bad is happening.
It seems like the worst thing too. Yeah.
But I still feel like something bad is going to happen, or something bad did, and I have to knock myself out of it.
Yeah.
Be like, realize that's
Yeah.
just your headline.
Yeah.
Too,
Like I was saying before, I went to the hospital because I thought I was having a heart attack or something, and I went several times over the years, and they're like, look, man, we've done every test we can do, and like it says you're good. You know what I mean? Like they're like, it's just stress. And they said, well, you're this, young with this many kids. And I'm like, to me, I don't look at it like, I don't feel like it's the kids. I don't feel like it's family. It's just something that happened out of nowhere. And I couldn't get rid of it, man. It's a struggle. It really is. It's a struggle. And like, I'll get times where I'm like going to pass out. You know what I mean? Like, it's just all of a sudden just comes over your body. Like, you'll be perfectly fine. And all of a sudden it just hits you and you're like, the downest person ever. I'm like, what happened? You know what I mean? But I've been getting a lot better.
It's a real thing.
It is.
Because I've been there, so I know.
I used to be like, oh, nah, this isn't nothing. You guys are crazy. And then all of a sudden it happened, and I was like, oh, my God.
Yeah, it's very humbling.
This is what everyone's warned me about.
Yeah. So how many kids do you have?
We have 4 right now, and our 5th one will be here in January. The 3 girls and 2 boys.
That's a busy life.
Yeah, it is. I got a shout out to the wifey too for holding it down on that. She's pregnant right now, like 7 months, and working too. And
Excellent.
my mom will take the kids, or her mom. While we got to take them to school in the morning. There's a lot going on, and then pick them up and then take them to my mom's, and then go back and get them from my mom's. And I'm thankful to have my mom, to be honest.
Yeah.
Because my sister, she moved. We just got back from Texas a few months ago. My sister moved over there a few years ago. It was pretty sad. She has 5 kids as well, and I miss them. It's tough, that far away. But she was always here for me, and if I needed to take my kid, she was there. And now it's my mom, and she's been doing nothing but traveling. Mom, Italy, Germany, freaking everywhere, all over.
She's saying she worked her butt off for how many years, so now she gets to have some fun.
Yep, that's what she said too. She's like, I raised you already, man.
Yeah.
And I'm thankful that she does do what she does for us. It's nice.
Well, and you share a lot of kind of inspirational quotes and hashtags and stuff in your Instagram.
Yeah.
That kind of give insight. I mean, otherwise it's just a picture or video of you cutting meat, but it gives more of an insight into the human stuff that's going on as you're doing that.
Yeah, I like to do that. It's kind of my thing. I see a lot of other people doing it now too, which is really cool. And some people have messaged me and said, "Hey, man, you inspired me." Like, a lot of people. A guy recently, he's like, "You inspired me to get a cow and raise it." And now the cow's hanging in here right now as we speak, and we're going to probably cut it next week, I'm assuming. But it's cool to get stuff like that. And
because what you share on Instagram, you share how you're proud of what you do.
Yeah.
Like, it's important to you. It's not just another job.
Yeah, no, it is. Like I'm picky. I want it perfect. You know what I mean? But not in a mean way. I'm just stickler, I guess.
Yeah.
Make it look nice, because that's how I would want it. Basically. But I like sharing the stuff on there just to see, what kind of reaction and there's a lot of negative people on there too. I try and block all that out, or there's some vegans on there that are pretty, and they were like that to a lot of different butchers I've seen, but they're like, can't believe you would do that. There was someone going around vandalizing the slaughter trucks, some vegan group or whatever. And it's cool if you want to be a vegan or whatever. There's nothing wrong with that. But I'm not over there like, I can't believe you're a vegan.
Yeah, you aren't vandalizing their
no, none of that stuff. Yeah. It's like, come on, you guys. This is how it's always been. It's like, we're not going to get away from it. Now they're like growing meat.
Lab meat.
Yeah, the lab stuff. Like, what's going on in this world? You know what I mean?
No.
It's giving it a bad name, and then people are starting to think other things like, oh, we shouldn't have been eating this. We should be eating this, something that the government made type of deal, It's like, no.
Thank you for what you do here, because you're a part of that food system. You aren't growing you're not the farmer.
A lot of people think we
are,
though.
You're not the cook, but you're such an important piece of making local food, nutritious food, like we've been talking about, happen.
Yeah. No, I enjoy it too. It's a big part of me. I don't think it'll ever go away. I think I'll probably do it for the rest of my life. I'm pretty sure.
thank you very much for having me right in here to where all the magic happens.
Yeah.
All this meat gets
Thank you for
processed. Well, thank you for being willing to do it.
Yeah, no problem. Anytime.
This is the Real Food, Real People podcast. These are the stories of the people who grow your food.